Welcome to the Nerds and Nonsense podcast. This episode is going to be about video games, primarily which video games, systems we like, video games we grew up as a kid, and if we like any current video game systems or games that are out right now. So I'm Randy, this is Kamar, and Adam on the end right there. So Adam, you can start us off.
Cool. I guess my favorite video game system is Nintendo 64. So, you know, as I grew up, I had just the NES, regular Nintendo, and then, you know, Genesis and stuff like that. But I actually started to get good at video games around the time 64 came out, which was like, 96, 97. I think we didn't get one until like 97, so it had already been out for a little while. But that's my favorite system. It's just like, I remember when it came out, like the graphics were like, whoa. Like, you know, you go back now and you play GoldenEye and it's like, holy shit, this looks terrible, but still a fun game to play.
Yes.
One of the all-time great games. But 64 is it for me. It's just like I literally still play it today. You know, I have a PS3 and a PS4. Never invested in a PS5 yet, but I'll play the 64 way more often than PS4. So it's my favorite system, and it's the one that I still actually use the most, even though I don't play a whole lot. But my favorite game on that is Mario Kart 64. Pretty much God level at that game. So if you want to come at me, I will decapitate you. It's not even a thing. So
we should get the Switch version, and all four of us can play the new ones. You know, see what all. We'll probably all totally be noobs at it, but you know, it's kind of fun. A fun thing to do, right?
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's a cool thing about the newer systems. So, but how about you, Kumar?
I want to say, of course, like everyone grew up with Atari, and I think one of my first systems ever was Sega, so I was a long Sega loyalist.
Genesis or Master System? Or?
I think the very first one was the Master System, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas it was like this triangular pyramidal thing with like burgundy and white stripes. That was the very first system that my parents got, like me and my older sister, for Christmas, and it was amazing. But then when Genesis came out, that changed the entire everything in the world.
16-bit.
Oh yeah. Oh god. So yeah, I was a Sega kid for a long time, and I think eventually I came around probably around high school to Super Nintendo, because we have a really close family friend, and he gave that to me because he kind of outgrew it. But I think after my glory years with Sega Genesis, the next thing was PlayStation for a long time.
Just the first one?
I want to say PlayStation 2 especially, because I got the Japanese version of the PlayStation 2 and the American version.
I remember I borrowed the Japanese one from you because it was like a specific game that I wanted to play, and only had the Japanese version at the time. So I bought the Japanese one off eBay. Like, hey, come on, are you still playing that Japanese PlayStation? Right. I just really want to play this game. Can I borrow it for a little bit? And then later on it came out on the American version, but it was like, come on, you're not using it, let me borrow it, man.
I want to be correct when I say this, but I do think the PS2 is the highest selling video game system of all time.
I believe that. Yes. I believe that, because I have a lot of good memories with PS2.
Because I was going to mention that was going to be my favorite one, but you know, I'll save my choice. But the amount of role-playing games, fighting games, action games on there, like it was different for a son. Like the run speeds were better. You know, they had like a compact version of it too. You know, made it just easier. You know, it wasn't like a giant piece of plastic that's holding everything. You know,
Those were the first ones to offer online gameplay.
Yeah. It was very primitive at the time, of course, but you know, it did offer, right? But the amount of games on there, like, it had everything, sports games, everything. It had a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah, it was pretty diverse, because it still gave you like the entire Japanese video game market, and then you also had the American market and other places that made games for it. So
I mean, PS3, 4, 5 have nothing on PS2 today. You
know? Is that the system where Grand Theft Auto came out on? Was PS2?
I think the original one came out on PS1.
PS1 was incredible. I have a lot of good memories on that.
But PS2 had like 3 and Vice City and San Andreas, so that's where it was hit. That was
where a lot of those sales came from.
Yeah, a lot of heavy hitters. That's where it really took off to where it is today.
I guess that leads us to ask you, what was your favorite system?
Mine's hands down is Super Nintendo.
Good system.
Me and my, it's two players. The graphics were 24. It's
Yeah.
over 16.
They were good.
Yeah, right.
Like when I finally got one of those, that was a huge upgrade.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
Kobe.
nothing. Yeah, right.
was it Chrono Trigger was
Yeah,
like
Chrono
one of the,
Trigger?
oh, I love that game.
Chrono
It's
Trigger,
like one of the
Super
best
Mario
RPGs.
RPG. You
Yeah.
had the beat 'em up games like Final Fight, Turtles in Times was on there. Action RPG games were on there.
Yeah.
Sports games were always good on there. It was like you could play with, have fun with everybody.
Yeah.
I remember going to the swap meets and looking for cartridges of the games too. Like looking for one they didn't have. But that was like another can of worms because some of them are pretty rare. But with the classic NES, don't say anything, but you can mod it and put games on there. So,
Oh, yeah.
but,
I'm sure everyone knows these days. But.
yeah, so that's by far my favorite one. I still
Yeah.
would replay value of that. It still lives up to its time. I mean, like the graphics are of course only 24-bit,
Yeah.
but to go back and play it's like a classic, man. It aged really well.
I agree.
They re-released that in the last couple of years, right? And NES, they re-released it,
And
like a little version.
There's also a mini
there's a lot of
PlayStation one and a mini Genesis one too.
I
So.
think they're
Mini
coming out with a
PlayStation
64.
Yeah.
Oh.
I heard the mini PlayStation one didn't do as well. They had it at a super high price, and then all of a sudden it just tanked real bad.
Because they had like PS1 for a while.
Yeah,
it
and
was a smaller version.
I think the collection of games they had on there, people didn't like. Where's this game and where's that game?
Yeah.
But, I guess the cool thing about modding it, is you put all the games you want to play on there. The games they have on there, you specifically probably don't want to play them as much. So you put the games you like. So.
Yeah.
But moving forward, we talked about what our favorite game systems we like, but how do you feel about the game community today, like the system that they have today?
Yeah.
I mean, the graphics are amazing. I really, like I said, I'm kind of stuck in the late 90s. I mean, I've played a few games that are more recent, like, and when I say recent, I mean like Madden 18 or something like that. But I've never played PS5, but even PS4, like a couple years ago, the graphics were amazing. Like Star Wars, like Battlefront, games like that. I don't have the time to invest in getting good at it, so I don't really play them, but they look fucking amazing. Like I've played a couple of like the WWE 2K or whatever they are. Like those ones are pretty fun, but there's so many different like moves and buttons you have to push. My brain just goes nah, can't do it. So I just stick with WCW Revenge or WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy. You know what I mean? Like that's more my speed. But as far as today's games, I can't really speak because don't play them.
I feel the same. I think I had my moment of maturity was in high school when I spent an entire weekend playing Final Fantasy IX. And I fucking completely missed my homework. And I got to class, I had like some time to make it up, to get it done, but of course it made my grade lower. I think like I could only get like a B on the project because I was late. And then I learned like, yeah, video games are fun, but only when you fucking have time for them. So, and that was, I learned a lot from that, and I think probably the last system I really kind of got into during college was PlayStation 2. And of course I had the Japanese thing going. So I had like Onimusha that I played in Japanese language, which was really interesting, a lot of fun. And I also had a friend who gave me the Final Fantasy X, which I played in Japanese, and that was a shitload of fun too. But I think like after that, like I had a lot of friends who would have Xbox and all these other things, and like they got really advanced and really sophisticated. However, I think I was always still kind of confused to the fact that you still had these people banging around on a controller. I think like when you had one of the greatest systems that was not necessarily my favorite, but I really had a lot of respect for it, was the Wii. And Wii really changed the face of how you could do gameplay. I feel like that hasn't advanced further enough. I think you have all these people who are stuck in the first person shooter sort of thing. I think what would only bring me back to games is you have some sort of sophistication in the gameplay, or it's like intuitive, and you could use your other human abilities and functions to make it work. And they have some pretty amazing things that are out there. I think I've seen some where it's like this sort of like really movie-like choose your adventure story, like almost like an RPG, but like almost like you're in a film. I got a friend when I was teaching ESL who was playing one which was a detective story, and it was really interesting. But I think that it's still kind of that place where it's trying to bridge the gap between becoming more than just a video game in mashing buttons. And you know, I still see when I meet folks where, like, you know, there's this lack of interaction because their mind's stuck in a video game because their frontal lobe hasn't developed like it should have. Then
Hey, Jonathan's not here with us. He can't defend himself.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
but yeah, but it's I don't know. I think it's especially me working and, like, you know, meeting people who are in those fields that do that work. Like, if they were so fucking absorbed into the products they made, like, they wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So there's a balance to it.
Do you play any games nowadays? Or?
Just like mobile games, but what I'm a sucker for is remakes of old games, which they're doing a lot of now. You have on the Nintendo Switch, there's House of Dead remake, and it's like you can use the little controllers for shooting. They're making Resident Evil 4 remake, one of my favorite games of all time. They're remaking that, like new story, new gameplay. Dude, my brother has a PS5, so I'm gonna probably play that. They're making like a new Final Fantasy. I believe it's 16, and you can use the summons Ifrit, Shiva, like Bahamut.
Like the classics.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Cool.
That got my attention.
That's pretty cool.
And Street Fighter 6 is coming out, and it looks incredible. You know, so like I'm a sucker for like remakes and bringing back old franchises. You know, like don't get me wrong, like the new franchises are cool. It's just I didn't build a connection with them, you know, because maybe I probably stopped playing the game at the time, and it didn't really connect with me. So that's why, like, the older games, they re-release it, put some new graphics in it, put a new story behind it.
Yeah.
I'm more behind it, you know. But I'm also for, like, you know, playing Smash Brothers with my brother and a couple of friends, you know, because you can play up to 8 people, and that's fun. I don't have anything against online gaming, but I kind of like it better if we're all here at the same time playing amongst each other. You know, it's fun that way. It's interaction. It's more fun that way instead of just screaming into a headset and playing on controllers.
Yes,
and
I
stuff,
have a lot. Yeah.
I don't do that. I've never done that, but I could see the fun in it. Like, because like back in the day, we used to go into chat rooms and we would all be at our individual homes, but we'd be like fucking with people.
Oh, yeah.
Like in a chat room that we didn't know, but we would all be from the same neighborhood and just anyways. But like if we were doing that with a video game, like that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I can totally see.
I see that quality because I remember like chat rooms and, like, you know, things like Discord or like those other are really popular because you have true communities of people who've been playing with each other for years and they connect that way. And I'm jealous of it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I don't know. I think like my classic gaming experience was like the controller, like Tenchi Stealth Assassins, X-Men 2 Clone Wars was still like the best Sega game I ever played. And then of course, like I loved all the RPGs. Like Final Fantasy X was still probably one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in a game. But I think these days, you know, I need to be able to have something interactive where maybe I'm speaking controls into like the system or making something decisive, or I don't know.
Forgot to mention that Final Fantasy 7 remake is out too, and
yeah.
that game, and that's visually, man, beautiful. You're like,
Yeah.
like remakes. I don't know. It's just something from the past just brings me back. You know, it's just something relatable. You know,
Right.
but following up on what you said, Kamara, it's kind of like, you know, speaking of, they have this whole VR thing now. You know, with the headsets and all that kind of stuff. That'd probably give me a damn headache. I'm like, you can do all that. You know, but it's cool. The concept's cool, but it just shakes.
I think VR is too much. I like AR. I think if there's more AR qualities, that would work. And AR is augmented reality.
Ooh,
so where there's certain things that become kind of in the environment because there's QR codes or other things like that are scanned.
Yeah.
And then I could rock AR because there's a limit to it. But like having my head in my phone or like a visor, like it seems a little kind of Ready Player One kind of.
I'm thinking about like, you know, walking around in public with that on and playing a beat 'em up game and just like beating the shit out of real people.
They configured as so it's like and you see the health bar going down, and then they're hitting you back. Like, how come they're not going down? And you're going in and fighting somebody that's actually really there.
You're hearing like the sirens. Like, this isn't GTA. What the fuck? It's like, no, it's the real cops, bro.
As a motorist, I'm just imagining people getting hit by cars.
They're hitting you with a pipe or a knife. Like, hey, my health's going. Oh man, I'm really bleeding right now. Oh my god! And you start passing out, and your health like slowly deplete.
You're looking for like a box of pizza on the ground,
or a chicken. Like, hey, I'm supposed to be reminded, you know. So
because you already see people like without a visor, like walking to the street, and not paying any
falling
attention,
into like open manhole covers,
running into a
people
a
falling
pole or
out their
something.
apartment buildings. There's a man who fell 7 stories today because they were playing a video game. Like I couldn't imagine it on the news. People aren't that smart.
Yeah, I think just kind of throwing out some other games that I grew up with was Bases Loaded on NES. I love that game. Of course, everyone on planet Earth, I think, played Mario Brothers. Mario 2 got, kind of skipped over by a lot of people, and then Mario 3 brought everyone back in. Fighting Golf on NES was amazing. And then I had Sega Genesis as well.
Yeah.
So, like, one of the most fun games I've ever played is called Sunset Riders on Sega Genesis.
That's fun with 4 players.
Yeah.
So can you use 4 players? It's more fun. It's an arcade game. I know you could play with 4 people there, and it's fun because you're all there, and you can hey, get this guy, get that guy.
Yeah.
Move around here. It's better. I think if you're there with a person, and they're with you to communicate with them.
Billy and Cormano.
Yeah.
And then NBA Live 96 was amazing, and then obviously went into 64, like GoldenEye is like one of the GOATs. Mario Kart 64, like I mentioned. What else? PS2, played a lot of Madden on PS2. Didn't play a whole lot else. Maybe some Mortal Kombat. I know we played Mortal Kombat on that. PS3, I still play NBA 2K12, which is 10 years old. It's kind of sad, but I think it's probably the best basketball game ever made for video games.
I like adventure games especially. I think what I find is like remakeability are definitely the sports games and the fighting games. Like you see those like remade so often and quite well, like when they redo them. But I think a lot of the adventure games, if they revisited those, like one of my favorites was Exo Man of War, which is on PlayStation, which was Exo Man of War and Iron Man, and you could play the game as either one of those, and that was really interesting. That was like when like Tomb Raider first came out. And then there was one, I want to say, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it has this character who's kind of undead. I think their name is like Azrael or something like that. And it's like
Soul Reaver?
Soul Reaver, there we go. Soul Reaver was a lot of fun. I got a kick out of that one when that was out. And then for Sega, there were quite a few. I remember Earthworm Jim was a lot of fun.
It was good, yeah.
Vector Man, I got a kick out of
Those are
Vector
pretty, I
Man.
think, underrated games. Yeah.
Very underrated. If they remade those, one of my favorites that did get a remake that I still think should be done again better was Toe Jam and Earl. Toe Jam and Earl was one of my favorites because it was weird. It was this funky sort of like alien sort of musical sort of game where you had to have like certain mastering beats in music, and you had like an adventure to put together a spaceship. Like it was pretty cool.
For me, back PlayStation 2, it was like the Breath of Fire games, the Street Fighter games, the Capcom versus SNK2.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love those. Man, I played the crap out of those.
You go to the arcade to play those.
Yeah. All the King of Fighter games back in the day. I was a sucker for all those, and they had all those. And just to move forward from that, it was just nowadays with games, like you see a lot more. It's playing the game is good too, but the story implemented as well, like the cutscenes. Like perfect example is if you guys ever watched it. If you guys look up Metal Gear Solid 4,
oh yeah,
the cutscenes, the cutscenes itself is like 8 hours of the game.
Yeah.
It's like a movie you're playing, right? But you actually play the game too. But the cutscenes itself is like an additional 8 hours. But it's incredible.
Metal Gear Solid was one of the most amazing.
The storyline for it incredible. They made up so many characters, but the characters they mesh well. The backstories, how they became who they are, all that kind of stuff. It's just incredible. I mean, like that was pivotal to those type of games back then, and then now they implement that. I like it too, It gives a certain dynamic, It makes the game, gives it more replay value to it as well too, Some of the back then the games might have been a little shorter because due to technology and advances, maybe voice work and graphics and everything. But now, those, it's a far reach now, to put all that in there. And that's good. I like it. For me, I probably won't be able to play it myself, but to watch other play it maybe on Twitch or YouTube or something, it's just as good because if I can't actually play it myself, I watch someone else play it, so it's cool. I can experience it that way too.
Right. That's one thing that you guys are cheating out there. Back in the day, like you just had to figure shit out. Like you're playing Zelda, like you could buy like the guide that could kind of help you, but nowadays you can literally watch the whole fucking game, see exactly what you need to do next, and apply it, and it's just like We didn't have that, dude. You had to figure like Ninja Turtles for NES. It was like, what the fuck? Like, how do you beat this game?
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
You either had to get the strategy guide, or or just figure it out yourself, or ask a friend that beat it. You know, like there was like Game Pro, Electronic Gaming Monthly, Video Game Magazine, stuff like that. Yeah. And now if you don't go on YouTube, you can go to GameFAQs. They have GameFAQs. Someone just.
Well, back in the day, like, you were lucky enough to just get the video game. If you were getting the guide, like, it's not like as a kid you could just throw around $100 or something.
Yeah, you'd have to ask a friend or go to Barnes and Nobles and look it up in the guide.
It's like read it and be like, no, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah. So I remember I had a subscription not Game Pro. I had like a subscription to like some other video magazine. But like those were always helpful if you did have a subscription. But it's expensive.
Yeah, it was. It's time like $28 a year.
Yeah, like
but as a kid,
pay for that. Like
So you look at the video game was $50-$60 already. That plus tax, and then other add-ons they might have or something, and then strategy guide $15-20 more bucks than $80. So like every time you're gonna get a strategy guide, probably not, right? So you kind of earn like badge like, hey, I beat it myself. I didn't need a strategy guide or anything like that. I actually beat it myself.
There's certain ones where you're just like, I think a lot of the RPGs you kind of needed it to like discover like some of the things in those. I don't know, like you would like even like I think like Final Fantasy, for finding like where all the different weapons were hidden. Like you go around this way into this canyon over here, and you beat this one character, then you're going to get such and such, and like you literally had to like get a strategy guide to get through some of those.
Yeah, I mean honestly, because like as much as you pay attention to the game, can you honestly say that I know where that is by looking? Yeah. No, it's like it's so well hidden. You have to look online. Someone has to mention to you because if it was that easy, then everyone would get it, right? So
like the people who would do that were like almost like in the South Park with like the guy who's like like they would they were like, yeah, I got the game, and then I decided to spend 3 months in this one area.
Yeah.
Like what? No one had time for that. So,
yeah, I think some of the most fun I ever had was playing like multiplayer games, like the wrestling games, Revenge, No Mercy, or playing like Mario Kart, where like you were sitting there with 3 other friends and just like just hours went by. I remember like a few summers where it's like we didn't even go outside really, because we were just playing video games, and it's like. I mean, you look back and it's like, we probably should have like exercised or something.
But those are the times where my older sister would be like, yeah, your room smells like sweaty boys. Yeah. So because you stayed over a couple of times, and like I remember like Silent Hill, that was one of those games where you couldn't put it down until you beat it. Like it was just insanely good. Or I'm trying to think what else. Like Devil May Cry was another one. I remember we spent hours with your brother on that one.
And like you said, I'm like just being amongst other people. When we were younger, my dad would go play soccer, and he would drop us off at they're not around anymore, a Wonderland or a Family Fun Center or Boomers. He'd give us like a $20 bill each, and we would go crazy. Just play some games with each other and just have a good time. It's sad that arcades aren't around anymore, but I guess they're pretty much irrelevant, right? Because they put everything into a game system.
Well, you could go to Dave and Buster's and get beat up or shot if you want.
Oh yeah. Dave and Buster's is still around. Coin House, where I used to work, where I used to bartend.
Yeah, there might be some local independent ones, but
it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not nostalgia, I guess. For me, but I mean,
it's nostalgia for adults these days.
I guess if you kind of want to do that now, the Switch is a good game for that because. You can have a lot of friends play with that in person and everything online as well too. They create a lot of multiplayer games, like Mario Kart. Maybe we should all invest into one. That'd be fun. Just have some tournaments, and will you really be talking shit then? I was kidding.
I think the tricky thing for me as an adult is that just for work, I spend so much time in front of a computer screen.
Yeah. If
I'm going to have some sort of interactive experience, it should be theatrical and sort of like taking you away from like mashing buttons.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing for me. Like I think some things like Netflix has gotten close where you kind of choose the process in the story. I want to say Black Mirror had a series where you kind of choose where the story goes. They've had a few like that, but I think if you have some sort of interactive quality, even if you could, you have Siri and all these things, Google you could talk to. If there's some way to interact in that sort of way, that would be pretty cool. And I think that would kind of bring video games back to adults who have social lives again, besides just only their network on Unreal Tournament or something. So,
I remember I think it's called Sims, the video game Sims, where you can go around and do regular life shit, and my buddy's wife was talking about, like, oh yeah, you can do this, you can do that, you can wash dishes, and he's like, there's fucking dishes like piled up. Like, you just go in the kitchen and
You can do it for real?
you completed this level. Wow.
You press a button, it's done. You have to actually physically go there and wash dishes. So,
Yeah. It's like how the escapism is a little problematic these days.
it's just the escape of reality to do this. Like it takes less time to do that, and you get rewarded or
Right.
complimented for doing that in the game. And in real life, like no one thanks me in real life, or it's just a chore for me, So, but
It's strange because when you think about social media, at least what's going on with Meta and Facebook, it seems like they're trying to push it in that direction of that VR gaming experience, which I don't know about. Like, I've already heard, like, one of the issues when it comes to NFTs is because people get into these virtual systems and they're actually spending real money on buying, like, a virtual house or, like, a virtual chair. Like, it's just like, what the fuck, right? Like, it's a little too much. I think there has to be some sort of reality check at some point.
Yeah. I'm too old for that fad or whatever. I don't know. So.
Yeah, like that's the thing is like if you have people who are younger than us, like Gen Alpha, really spending money on a virtual book or something, like what's that going to do to the world?
I mean,
to
there's a
the
market
economy?
for it. It might appeal to some people, but maybe not all. There's something for everybody, I guess. So
It's not my money. Go for it. You know.
So.
But yeah, it is your economy though, so you're going to feel it. Like, who has enough to pay this much for gas? Because someone has like all these NFTs they collected that have this false value that makes gas like $30 a gallon now.
I guess I'm shitting on that, and then I spend thousands of dollars on pieces of cardboard that say Michael Jordan. Have a picture, But
You are a hypocrite.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, you have a virtual thing that drives it down because they could make 3 Michael Jordan cards and like limit that, and then you're like, what
Turn it
happened to the
into
value of my actual Michael Jordan card? There's a problem with that because that could drive down like the value of the real things. And then you're like, what? My collection is like worth pennies because like the virtual one cost more. That's a wild shit.
Cool.
So, if there was like one game or game series that's not here, like presently, that you want remade, like which one would it be? Like for modern day, like maybe a remake of it. They bring it back, but different characters or same kind of like setup for it. What would it be?
For me, it's actually already happening. I think it's called the Cowabunga Collection for Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
For PS4 and PS5, it's they're releasing essentially all the old games in like one disc, or if you buy it through the PlayStation. I think it's like $150 or something, but you're getting essentially most, or if not all, the games that they released in the past. So you'll be able to play it on a new system. And I do have like a regular NES. It still works sometimes. You gotta blow into that fucker and do all that shit. So, but yeah, it'd be nice to just I can disconnect, actually have the controller in my hand, sit on the couch and play it that way.
Tactile experience.
Yeah. So that's it's already happening for me. What about you guys?
Come on.
Yeah, I have to come back around to video games. I think about it. My favorite ones that I'd love to see or to probably re-experience anew might be Tenchu Stealth Assassins. Okay. That was one of my favorite ones for PlayStation 2. PlayStation, because that's what came out on PlayStation. I want to say Sega Genesis was X-Men 2 Clone Wars. This is like definitely one of my favorite ones. I think
Clone
Wars. And the crazy story for that one. So when you were a kid in San Diego, you had Fox Channel 6, and you had the personality Uncle Murph, which was like this tourist guy with like a Hawaiian shirt. You remember that guy? So I had a subscription to the Fox Kids, like, Kids magazine, and there was a contest where, if you sent in mail, you could win, X-Men 2 Clone Wars. So my parents remember, like, I took this envelope, I did like the most raddest illustration of Magneto, and then like Psylocke and Nightcrawler. On the other side I had Wolverine, and like, the entire thing, colored pencil, like amazing. And I mailed that sucker, and the next thing I know, I get a reply back from the station saying I won X-Men 2 Clone Wars.
Awesome. Wow. That's great.
And that blew my mind. And then after that was like the best game ever. And actually just playing it and beating it with friends, there was a code you could put in, get 99 lives. That was awesome. So we were able to actually beat the game that way. We stayed up like hella late. But yeah, I'd say that one because every level and the music was amazing.
I think it wouldn't apply today, but having passwords for new games today probably wouldn't work.
I know, it wouldn't work at all.
Because it'd just take all the fun out of playing the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it would be a type of RPG that didn't have back then, but if they remade it, it'd be great. I had the Chrono Triggers and the Final Fantasies, right? But it'd actually be two, actually, for me. If they remade the game Breath of Fire, it was a role-playing game. Awesome, loved it.
Okay.
The third and fourth one especially, that was on PlayStation 1, I think, but yeah. And then if they made a sequel to Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars.
Oh, wow, I never played that one.
Yeah, so it was on Super Nintendo. It was an RPG game. It was a collaboration between Nintendo and Square Enix, and they had like a RPG-based game where you could use Mario, Princess Peach, Bowser, these new characters. You can use a character named Mallow and Gino, and blanking on the fifth person here. But they made a sequel of that. Yeah, I'd totally be off for remake that. That'd be great for me. So.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry. When I think of passwords, I think of Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Oh yeah.
And I remember there were some kids back in the day that were rumored to have the password and then they wouldn't give it to you. But then the internet came along and you could just go right to Mike Tyson and get your fucking ass kicked. Like the first minute and 30 seconds are those like flash punches, and I think I tried it even a few years ago. I did end up beating it. I think I was in 8th grade. But yeah, I tried it maybe a few years ago and I just got demolished. I was like, I'm good. I'm not good at video games anymore.
Yeah, I think part of my transition out of the consoles was StarCraft. So my my senior year of high school, everything was StarCraft.
So you just have to have more patience, and nowadays with games, because if you're continuing to lose, you have to stay with it. If you leave, I'm done. That's your attention span might not be there. So that's why it's games nowadays. It's just more advanced, longer, and everything like that. So.
Yeah.
I think one good thing about games, you think back in the day, the price really hasn't changed a whole lot. 50, 60, maybe $70. For a brand new game, and you go back in 1993 and a Genesis game was still $60.
Yeah, it was.
So that's fair.
They control the market.
Yeah. Because they know they release it more times than not, they're going to get their money back.
Right.
Because if it's a more popular game, it's on the new generation system. People are going to buy it. So to make it some kind of outrageous price, $100, well, what else are you doing different than from the previous system? Nothing really. I mean, graphics are better, of course. More effort's put into it, but you're going to pretty much eliminate a lot of the market if you raise the price up, right?
Yeah, I think the key thing is that if a video game company wants me to be back into playing video games, they have to really do something with the interactive experience that changes it. Because we're in a society where our technology revolves around our cell phones, and then if you're doing anything that's entertainment, it's like a TV or a screen or a projector of some sort. So there has to be some sort of interactive way where, Pokemon, that was pretty amazing, because you even had this thing on your car where you can click and collect Pokemon.
Don't remind me on that one.
That is rad,
9 phones.
But that's a real integrative experience. For me, I like to have some sort of thing where maybe I'm out in town and it connects back to maybe some adventure that I'm having, and maybe my phone is the connecting device for that, and I put my phone connected to the system somehow, and then I have some sort of real experience in my environment with that. I need that sort of integration.
Yeah, if there's a phone call situation in the video game, it literally calls your phone and you have to answer
that'd be
it.
fucking rad.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
There's a knock at the door, answer the door, someone's going to be there. They're going to ask you these questions, and then answer that question, and then the next part, you go, that's cool.
It had some sort of thing where you had, I think, because we have our home environment, we have our outside environment. I think when you look at Pokemon, or you look at what was the one that Kirk?
Ingress.
So if you took something like that, where you have this real world interactive sort of thing, and you could bring it into your phone, and then you have some other environment in your home or the TV, the same way, that integrative thing would really kind of shake it up for me. Especially because after getting StarCraft was a whole lot of fun. I love that game. Yeah. But how it works is you select, you click, and you direct. You're just directing. You don't have to, they'll have the cutscenes. I love cutscenes. You have to have that for any video game. But these days, graphics are so amazing that it has to be more about the experience than the graphics for me. Like there's a great movie that totally looks like a video game called Arcane. It was a series. It's a series on Netflix, and like it's just animated just like a video game. So my standards for the graphics aren't what they used to be. It's just the interactive experience.
More of the experience, like it's not like the visuals, but the experience.
The experience.
Gotcha. So in closing, you guys have any other comments you guys want to bring up?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
So
I'm pretty good.
all right, so I'm gonna wrap up this topic for today with thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us your favorite video games. New or old. What, your experiences. Anything that's coming out that you might be excited for.
Post them in the comments below.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
If you want to challenge me at Mario Kart 64 and you think I'm lying, I dare you.
Yeah, but you probably have to go to your house in person. You can't do it online. Yeah, guys, like the video. We have a Facebook page. Comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. And thanks for nerding out to our nonsense. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Take it easy.